and welcome back to my channel and to another 3 Girls 1 Monthly catch-up. These are videos that we have decided to do together where we share our catch-up for the month so that we actually do them, because we're all a bit rubbish about sitting down and doing them if we have to do them by ourselves. And we tend to go through the same categories every month. So we do like Wildcard category, then we talk about the decks that we've been using for the month, some films, some TV, and some books. So I think we can jump right in and talk about our wild cards for the month.
For June, the most important thing about June is that June is BTS Festa month. So, and this year was the 10th anniversary of BTS, for those who don't know. And so I spent a large chunk of June just consuming BTS related content because they released so freaking much of it during Festa. And so attended a couple of Yoongi's concerts virtually over the weekend, and did the whole middle of the night like Festa celebration with the fireworks and everything. And I will say that all of this does entail, usually, since things are on Korean time, getting up at like 3 o'clock in the morning in the United States. And yet I always do that stuff willingly. And I don't know why, but that's what I spent a lot of time on in June. So
fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I when I woke up for the Saturday, 6 a.m. August D, I did not know where I was or what I was doing. And I'm like, how does one get up so early for a virtual concert? This is my first time doing it. And I have to say, it was worth it.
It was 100%. It's always worth it. I have never regretted it. I've gotten up at 3 a.m. or in this case, it was 5 a.m., but oftentimes it's at 3 a.m. and I've done it for so many things and I've never regretted it for 1 second. So I
cannot say I would be able to do a 3 a.m. I just don't think I have that in me. But 6 a.m. I thought, that's kind of close to like a work day, wake up time.
Yeah.
I can try. And so, yeah, it was a little difficult. Matt was a bit surprised that I was willing to wake up on a Saturday morning, but surprised and yet not surprised. It's BTS, but
yeah, the Sunday one was at 3 a.m. and I went to both of them. So
wow, yeah, that's commitment.
It's dedication. But if Yoongi's going to be live, I'm going to be freaking watching it. So that's what it is.
Yeah. It was good. Well, I don't really have much. I mean, it was my birth month. I had birthday, so that was cool. Got to it was low key. Got to hang out with friends and just have a bit of a staycation. So I took a few days off of work, and it was just quite lovely. And of course, got a bunch of. I wanted to share one funny gift that I received from a friend. This friend likes to give me like coloring books that deal with cats. Like the last cat coloring book she got me was cat butts. So it's all about cat butts. And then this time it's cat farts.
I actually have a Julie cat butt on my fridge.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I've been practicing writing a Korean to Heather. And so I decided to include one of my art pieces of the colored cat butt. I can't remember which one I colored for you, but yeah. So you shall be getting a cat fart soon with my next letter.
Awesome.
I have to decide which one I want to send you. So
I shall look forward to it with my face breath.
Anyway, so that's really it on my part.
I didn't do anything really in June. I had some time off work, but I did buy myself a Switch.
Oh,
so that was kind of my thing. I bought myself a Switch and I bought Animal Crossing, and I've been trying to play it in Korean. But sometimes I have to flip back because it's too hard. And also Switch is really annoying, I've discovered, because you can't change the language per game. You can only change the language of the console. So you have to keep flicking back and forth for different games, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's been a while since I've gamed. I had the last gaming console I bought myself was a PlayStation 3 when it had been out for like a month. So that's how long ago it was. And I haven't gamed for ages, but It's quite a nice thing to do that's a bit different. I bought myself a Switch Lite though, because the bigger ones you can take the consoles off and play them on your TV and stuff, but I didn't bother with all of that. I've just got the little Switch Lite. I was trying to explain it to my dad as well, and he was like, "What's one of them?" And I was like, "It's like a Game Boy." He's like,
Exactly.
"What's one of them?" And I was like, "We had Game Boys, Dad."
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. That's like the last and only thing I had. I think it was even my sister's. I never did gaming or whatever. She had a Game Boy. I would borrow it from time to time to play Sonic Hedgehog. And that was about all she wrote in terms of my gaming capabilities or experience. But I did try the Switch for the very first time in Sweden because my friend brought it along with him. And so that's how all of us kind of like bonded, like with the young boys. And they were actually forced to communicate with us in English, which they're great. I mean, they were doing really well. And they were having such a great time. And one of the sons is autistic, and he just was loving the Switch. And he and his brother were able to actually play that together. So Benno, their father, went and bought a Switch right away for them so that the whole family could play, because it was just like so much fun. Yeah.
It's awesome. So, I've never in my life owned a gaming console ever of any kind. I've played some PC games, but I've never, I'm so bad at anything that requires like manual dexterity, and I get so stressed. I only ever play like puzzle adventure games where you don't die, and most of those are on PC. And any game where you can die is just too stressful for me. So I never play games like that, like ever.
Oh yeah. I attempted, like Matt was trying to get me when we first started dating. He was trying to get me to like play PlayStation with him and try to learn how, and he's just so competitive. So on top of my just not having any motor coordination skills and, dexterity with like being able to operate, and then him, just being super competitive, and it's just like, nope, never mind.
You just do this by yourself.
Forget it.
I will be in the other room.
Exactly. So
cool. So shall we talk about the decks that we used in, what month are we in? June.
I know, it's so hard to keep track.
Oh, it is. The year is half over already.
Oh,
Jesus.
Please don't remind me. That's so scary to think about, honestly.
Right. Anyway, on that happy note, shall we talk about the decks that we used in June?
So for me, I have been continuing to work through the HalloQuest with the Arthurian Tarot. So that's kind of a carryover from the previous month. And I also found myself a lot getting out this month my Maraloon Tarot, because I love this deck, and it feels really like summery to me in terms of the color palette. And so I really love this one. So I've had this one out just for some reason. It was calling to me. So that is one that I have been using.
Cool.
Those are my two.
So I have been working with the Hellenic Oracle because I've been kind of just on and off continuing my Greek mythology studies. So I've been using that. And then the two others that I have enjoyed using in June, one being, and this is out of print, but it is the Delos Tarot, and a wonderful, wonderful person saw me crying about it on our previous Three Girls, where we're talking about, the decks that got away. And I said that the Delos Tarot was that deck for me. And this person very kindly offered to give me her backup copy because she had another copy. So
that is so generous. Just wow.
It really is.
It's so generous, and it makes me so happy. And I'm so glad to have this deck. It's just
so cute.
It's so cute, right?
Yeah.
It's just a great. I should use mine more. I should because it's just awesome.
And it does really feel like it kind of a summary deck in terms of these colors, and it's just so cute, and so of course easy to use because it is very RWS leaning, but it has brought me a lot of joy this month. It was like having, it was like a birthday gift essentially, because I never thought I would have this deck.
The big cat in the strength card is like one of my favorites.
Oh my gosh, love that. Love it so much. Well, and even like the 7 of Swords, where she's in the cat suit.
Yeah, it's so cute.
Amazing. Freaking amazing. Everything about it. So good. So, and then the other one, which was by actually the same person gifted me this one too, because she was rehoming some other decks and she thought, are you interested in any of these? And I can, send you any of these that you're also interested in. And one of them was the Tarot de Carlottides. Yes, thank you.
Tarot de Carlottides. Say that again, but just one of you.
Oh, Tarot de Carlottides.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's how I pronounce it. I think it's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Spanish, Carlottides. And so it is a very quirky deck. And I went back and forth when I had first seen this deck on whether I wanted it. Like, this is definitely my cup of tea. But I wasn't sure if it was, like, I just wasn't sure. I think there was one image where it was like, again, like human body or, human head on animal body or vice versa, where I'm just like, nope. And I know this one, a lot of people talk about the Midsummer, which I still have to watch. But anyway, so there are a lot of kind of pop culture or other type of references that I really enjoy about this deck. And I love the art style. And the card that I thought would bother me actually doesn't bother me as much. It's like a harpy. It's an image of a harpy, and I forget which card it is, but it actually doesn't bother me as much. It's one card, I can deal with it, So, but this has been a lot of fun to use, and I think the backs are beautiful. The size, because this is a Fournier deck, the size is just
perfect for you. Yeah,
I do like the size of Fournier deck.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. I was like, a Fournier deck is the perfect deck for Julie.
Yeah.
I love Fournier decks. So yeah, this has been a really easy deck to work with. It just has a very kind of eccentric yet whimsical feel to it. And yeah, I want to do some spreads with it too. So far, I've been doing daily draws and such, but I have a couple spreads that I want to try with it. So that has been, those have been the two that have been pretty memorable for June.
So I worked with a couple of decks this month, but I'm gonna talk about the literary tarot specifically because it's the one I'm working with now, and it's the one that is the most like contentious of the decks I worked with this month. There was, like, I'm sure most people know by now, there was like the whole drama around the unexpected shipping costs that had to be resolved, and the fact that we waited for it for like 3 years and stuff. And then I got mine, and like my part of it's such a small thing, but my box has come with the stuff on it
upside down,
and you can really see on some of my cards along the edges where they've been cut on and stuff. So I had so much negative feeling towards this deck, and I did get to a point where I was like, I'm just going to sell it. I'm just going to put it on eBay. But then I thought, do you know what? I need to just use it. I need to use it and see how it goes. And once you break this deck in, it actually shuffles really, really well.
Oh, good.
It shuffles well. It seems to have, I love the gold foiling on it, although the lighting in here doesn't love the gold foiling on it very much. And it's okay. It's like, I don't love it. I don't dislike it either. It's just okay. And I'm not hugely surprised because although I'm a huge lover of books, I'm not a big reader of classics. There are classics that I really love, and then there are a lot of classics that I'm like, no, I don't really care. And there's a lot of classics in here that once I look them up, I'm like, oh, I do know that story, but I just didn't know that's why I just don't know it well enough to make the connection. But it's been fine.
Okay.
And I probably will keep it and use it again some more, but I don't love it as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
So this is a deck in which the guidebook, I think one of you was talking about the fact that you anticipated the guidebook having a little bit more exposition about why that particular story was chosen for that card, but it actually wasn't in the guidebook. Is that correct?
And I think there's another, am I right, Sarah, that there was another book you could buy, a big book that you could add on that did that talked about
okay.
I think what, so here's the thing. I haven't even opened mine yet. My whole literary tarot thing is still in the box because I didn't want to open it while I was still pissed off about the Kickstarter and just meet the deck with that level of bad energy. So I've been holding off on even opening the box, literally the cardboard shipping box. So but what I have heard is that the big guidebook, which I did buy the big guidebook, assuming that the big guidebook would have that level of
detail.
Discussion. And from what I've heard, it actually doesn't. It's Laura from Aquamarine 18. She is the one, because she did a video talking about the deck, and she talked about how the big guidebook just doesn't have the information that you would hope it has.
I think I've seen that video.
It has a lot of the back and forth between the deck's creators and the author who chose the card, but not in any kind of way that actually explains why the card was chosen for the most part. So, which really bummed me out. So that's another reason why I'm just okay.
Yeah, that would suck for sure, because given the theme, the premise of the entire deck,
you should have an extensive guidebook specifically detailing this is the plot of that novel, this is all the connections that you can make between the plot of that novel and the tarot card. That is what a guidebook should have been for this.
I do think that is where I am struggling with this deck.
Okay, because that was going to be my question. If you didn't know any of the stories, would you be able to still read it like a deck or...
Speaking only from personal experience, no.
Okay.
Because a lot of the time I'm trying to find one that's a good example. Okay, so the Four of Light. I'm not enamored with the way that they've renamed the decks, because they just seem to have, there's no explanation as to why ink is this and why quills are swords, and it's just we wanted to keep within the theme of the deck, so we picked these four things to name them,
right,
without any more explanation as to why that specific thing for that specific element type thing. But then so the Four of Light, which I can't even remember what that is without looking it up, I have a feeling it's cups, is Bartleby the Scrivener by Herman Melville. I don't know what that is. I literally have zero idea what that is.
Not to.
And so
that's Bartleby. I mean, Bartleby is perfect for It's perfect for the Four of Cups, but if you haven't read it, it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
So when you look at the image is an image that is obviously taken directly from the story.
Yeah.
That isn't necessary. I mean, I don't know if that's a good example because I've just picked the name of a card I don't know. But so sometimes I look at the card and I think I don't know that story.
Yeah.
And I don't understand what's going on in that card because I don't know that story. So I don't know how this card connects with the image, with the story, to the meaning.
No, that makes perfect sense.
So I find myself getting a bit lost with it. And I think, and again, I say that's partly my own, not fault, because that makes it sound like it's a bigger deal than it is, but because I probably should have thought through more about the fact that this would be a classics oriented deck, and that they're
American, right? American. A lot of them are American classics, are they?
I think
are they all over the world?
No, I think they're all over. Yeah, there's stuff from all over. There's stuff that there's The Snow Queen by Hans Christian Andersen. The Snow Queen is Queen of Parchment by Hans Christian Andersen. So that's when I'm like, the Snow Queen for the Queen of Pentacles. I don't get that at all.
Yeah.
I don't, that doesn't necessarily, and Dorian Gray for the King of Pentacles are choices that I would want more explanation as to why those choices were made, because on the surface, I don't necessarily understand them.
Okay.
Romeo and Juliet for the Page of Pentacles. I'm like, I don't get why that choice was made.
Okay, that one is weird.
That one is weird.
So there's a couple like that where I just think, I just wish there was just a little bit more. They've really stuck with the theme. So it's really like the way they describe each card is very literary. It's very, flowery and literary and sticks within the theme of that all the way through. But it's not enough for me. And I just find myself getting a bit lost.
Oh, I'd be so frustrated with that deck. Oh, I'd be so frustrated.
Yeah. So
I need to open it and see how I feel about it. So,
I think you're probably a lot more familiar with classics than I am, right?
I mean, I see myself as relatively familiar, like I can sort of make sense of Dorian Gray. Romeo and Juliet as the Page of Pentacles makes no sense to me. Like I'll need to think about that a lot to make sense of that. The Snow Queen and Dorian Gray, those actually do make some sense to me. I mean, when you think about the specific story, but you need to actually know the story.
Yeah.
Right. So, because I mean, the Snow Queen is all about Gerda, pursuing her brother, and saving him from the Snow Queen. And there very is a sort of like a set of female archetypes that she encounters throughout the story that are very nurturing. And her, her whole thing about basically like melting the shard of ice that has taken over her brother's heart and everything like that, like through her love and caring of him. Like I can see that as the Queen of Pentacles. Like that does make sense to me. But you need to know the specific story, like the actual
right.
Story. Yeah.
And which character is depicted in the card itself too, right? Because you said that they're I don't know which one it is, but
right. I mean, I'm assuming it's Gerda. But
without actually finding the card. And even if I found the card, I wouldn't know. So I don't know why I said it like that. Like, let me find the card, and that will answer all of our questions.
I don't look at this deck and see how I feel about it. So,
but the ones where I know the story, I do get it more. Like, oh, there you go. The Queen of Parchment. I'm assuming that's the Snow Queen. That is the actual Snow Queen in the Queen of Parchment.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting.
Oh, so it is the Snow Queen herself.
Yeah.
That's where I'm just like.
And then I'm not sure if the person in front of her is like, there's a person under. Oh, no, hang on. So there's a guy sat underneath her.
That would be
the and this is the girl. This with the back to you looks like it's a figure of a girl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. But she's not the main. She's not the main character.
She's not the thing that draws your eye. No, you have to really look at it to figure out what's going on. But some of them I do understand. Like the hermit is Frankenstein.
Oh, okay, okay.
And I've read Frankenstein. It's one I'm very, very like. I love that story, and I totally get that choice. It makes perfect sense to me because I know the story, so it makes sense. But I don't think it's an issue with the deck. I think it's an issue with the deck belonging to someone who isn't a huge classics reader and therefore doesn't have the necessary knowledge to be able to make the connections that you need to be able to make in order for the deck to be as good as it has the potential to be. I think it's a me problem, not a deck problem, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, yes and no. I do think
there should be a better guidebook.
I think there should be a better guidebook. Yeah. The fucking literary tarot, for God's sake. Like, make a guidebook that actually goes into the literature of it, not just correspondences between like whatever artist. And I don't know. I just think that's such an odd angle to play for like a larger companion book, I mean, anyway, but then again, I don't have the deck and I don't have the guidebooks and I don't know. I've just been hearing all sorts of things from many people, but I don't know. I think that they could have done a better job with that. But do you feel like the kinds of stories that they picked were varied? Like, well,
yeah. And I think there's some classics, and then I think there's some modern classics in there as well. And funny enough, a lot of the modern, I mean, it depends what you define as modern classics, I think, but like I think of like classics as much older. And then things like The Great Gatsby, I think, is a bit more of a modern classic and fun. When I go through it, I'm like, all of the ones that are a bit more modern, I know and I've read. So it's purely my taste. My taste in classics becomes very obvious whilst working through this deck. That's the thing that I've learned the most while using it the last couple of weeks, is about my own reading tastes, which has been quite interesting for that. But
well, good on you for giving it a shot, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. I will probably open mine this week.
I look forward to hearing how you feel about it.
Me too.
So, yeah.
So that's actually quite a nice segue. Shall we move into books now? And what books that we've read this month?
Sure. So for me, the book that I have read most recently in June is a book that for some reason I've read many times. And for some reason in the summer in Minnesota is when I always want to read it, because it is a road trip book that takes place mostly across the Midwest. And that is American Gods by Neil Gaiman, which I know a lot of people may not think of as a road trip book, but it is very much a road trip book. And so much of it takes place like in Wisconsin and Illinois. And like, you know, if you're familiar with those parts of the world, like it really kind of captures the feeling of traveling in the Midwest in a lot of ways, which is something that I always associate with summer, because you know, in the summer, like you're always going up to the lake, do so much driving. Like there's always, you know, I spend a lot of time on the road in the summer, I feel like. And so for some reason that book always appeals to me. So I have most recently been rereading American Gods for probably the 10 kabillionth time. Like I don't even know how many times I've read that book, but it's one of my favorites. So anyway.
That's a thick one, isn't it?
It is pretty thick. Yeah.
That's probably why I haven't read it.
I haven't read that one either. Yeah,
I'm telling you, I'm the type of person who's like, if I see that it's like a thick book, I'm like, my attention span is so difficult to maintain as it is.
But it's such a good book, Julie. Oh my God. It's really good.
It is on my list to read at some point.
I'll think about it.
I mean, if you like mythology,
I love mythology.
If you like mythology and like an American road trip book, it's a good book. It's really good.
I don't know if I've ever read a road trip book.
I mean, there's many different aspects of the book, but a lot of it is about traveling. It feels like, to me.
But there is like a plot, like a.
Yes. So the premise of
the
premise of the book is that all of the immigrants who have come to the United States have brought their gods with them.
Oh, okay. This is sounding familiar. Yeah,
right.
Okay.
But
it was also a TV show, wasn't it? It was a TV show as well.
I heard that
too. Yeah. Okay. The TV show didn't quite do it for me. But so all of these gods have come to the United States and nobody really worships them anymore. So they're all kind of like down and out, just like trying to, you know, make a living. They're like working at gas stations and, you know, stuff like that. And in the meantime, the new gods of America, which are like the gods of the internet and drugs and freeways and airplanes and, you know, all of those things are kind of like rising, you know? And so the overall plot is a war between the old gods and the new gods. And there's much more to it than that, but that is the overarching theme of the book.
Gotcha. So. I wasn't sure if it was like more of like a character driven, like, you know, where it's like not much happens plot wise, but it's more of one of those like character driven. So you're on a road trip and it's about self-discovery and
there is a main character and he is definitely, you are very much inside his head for the duration of the book. And how, you know, he gets involved in this sort of overall story, you know, gets kind of allied with the old gods and starts like working for them basically, is a big part of the story. So you're definitely in the mind of one character for the entire book, but yeah, a lot of stuff happens.
So. Okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of plot. Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, speaking of Neil Gaiman, I wanted to kind of bring it back to remember this book that I was trying to read. I finally finished it.
Oh, did you? How'd you feel about it?
You know, it's all right. It's interesting because the kind of climax of the book, of the plot arc, was to me very kind of anticlimactic. Like the reasoning behind why they're after this graveyard boy, you know, why people are looking to kill him, essentially. And so that part was actually anticlimactic, but I enjoyed, funny enough, like just the kind of the coming down of you know, just the kind of resolution that came after, some of the plot points that came before. I mean, there were some nice scenes in there for sure. And it could just be because this is meant to be like middle grade. It's meant to be for younger audience, so maybe that's why. Although normally I don't really have that problem. I can read whatever age. I mean, hell, I collect children's books, for God's sake. So I mean, that really wouldn't be a problem, but I'm not sure. And I have read other Neil Gaiman books that have just felt a little more exciting or a little more entertaining. But it was, you know, it's like I finished it. Yay! I finished it. And again, speaking of rereading, this is a book that I've been rereading, which is Mythos by Stephen Fry. You know, again, doing the whole Greek mythology thing. But if you haven't read this, you should. It's fun. I really like Stephen Fry's narrative style and his kind of his reimagining of some of the Greek myths.
Have you read anything else by Stephen Fry?
I have not.
One of my favorite books ever is by Stephen Fry. It's called Making History, and it's basically that question. You know that question, like if you could go back in time and kill Hitler, would you? Well, they don't go back in time and kill Hitler, but they go back in time and fix it so that Hitler's never born, and then it changes the world. It's such a good story. I would highly recommend it. Yeah, it's very, very good.
I have not. No, I have. This is my very first Stephen Fry, and I didn't even make the connection that it was the actor Stephen Fry. And I'm just like, wait a minute, I feel like I know that name. Like, and then I Googled, and I was like, oh, it's that guy. That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. Okay. Anyway, that's a good one. So that's it for me.
I read loads in June. I read quite a lot. I read 3. I actually have been on a bit of a horror kick in June, and I read towards the end of the month. I read 3 horror books back to back.
Wow! And
ended up loving all 3 of them. Nice. I won't talk about all 3 of them because that's a bit much, but I don't know which one to talk about. So I'll tell you. Well, the most recent one I read, I've been borrowing them from the library as ebooks, and I just read How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix.
Grady Hendrix, yeah.
Grady Hendrix.
Yeah, he's the guy who's written all of the one who wrote that IKEA horror book.
Yeah, the story that takes place in basically at IKEA. Yeah, I've not read that one. But I read the final support group last month, and I enjoyed it a lot. And then I read How to Sell a Haunted House, and I enjoyed it even more. I mean, I read it in 2 days, and the only reason it took me 2 days is because the first day it got to like 11:30, and I was like, I'm going to have to go to bed because I'm old and I can't do it. So I read it over the weekend, and it was so good. It was like, it's about evil puppets and dolls. So maybe, Julie, not for you because you have dolls, but
no, it'd totally be for me.
So this woman's parents die in a car accident. So there's a lot of like the theme is all around grief and family secrets and sibling drama and all that kind of stuff. But her parents die, and she has to go home to help her brother sort out their estate and sell the house and all that kind of stuff. But their mum was a Christian puppeteer who made all her own puppets and things. And they've got one hand puppet called Pupkin that is evil, basically. And it's sounds funny, and it was in places, but it was also terrifying and genuinely scary and very well written.
Playing on the stereotypes of creepy dolls and puppets. I see how it is.
But the story goes, you think it's going one way, you think you figured out what's going on with this puppet, and then it kind of twists it at the end, and you're like, oh, I did not see that coming. That's very clever.
Like the Buffy episode where the puppet turns out to be the demon hunter?
No, not quite. No. No. But the ending actually is quite nice. Like, it's actually quite heartwarming how it ends in a lot of ways. So I would definitely recommend it. It was also the least weird of the three.
Interesting. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's one of his books I haven't heard of, because I've heard of The Horror Store, which was the IKEA one, and then there was the Final Girl support group, which I think you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And then there's that other one that was like very 80s, and it was like something about my best friend's
exorcism. Or something like that.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So,
but that one's been turned into a film, I think, as well.
Oh, really?
It's on Netflix. But this one came out this year, I believe.
Okay.
It's his newest one that's not that long been released. Okay. But it was a lot of fun. It was fun, but also it was very scary, and I am never owning a doll or a puppet.
We're just saying one. No,
taxidermy squirrels.
Taxidermy. My goodness. Okay.
Yeah. Taxidermy squirrels specifically.
Squirrels. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
No, thank you. So yeah, it was good. It was very, very good. If you're into horror, I would recommend it. If you're into, it's kind of haunted house, but not really, because it's not the house that's haunted so much.
Okay. I don't think I've even ever heard of that author. I'll have to maybe check him out.
He's good. He is clearly somebody, it's very noticeable in the Final girl support group specifically, but he's clearly an author who has a very deep appreciation for horror movies, and the horror genre, and it's really apparent in the way that he writes, but he does it, I think, as somebody who loves horror and has just seen it all in terms of movies. It's tropes that you recognize without being, for God's sake, really, has not been done enough. Do you know what I mean? He does it in a way that's unique.
It doesn't feel so.
It doesn't feel old and tired.
Because I was going to say, possessed dolls, possessed puppets, possessed taxidermy, or whatever. It was like,
it's done very, very well.
Right. Okay, all right. Well.
Okay, so then we've got films and TV that we've all been watching in June.
All right. So for me, in addition to continuing to watch Justified, which I am now in the 4th season of, I also spent a chunk of June, as I mentioned, watching a lot of BTS content, and also finally catching up on Marvel stuff that I had not watched yet. So I finally watched like Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which I hadn't seen yet.
I still haven't seen
it either. No.
Watched the new Ant-Man, which wasn't very good, and
not seen that one yet either.
Yeah, so I mean, it was just kind of a Marvel catch up, and I did watch the first episode of Secret Invasion, which is the new like Nick Fury one. But I am also mad about the AI art. Titles, and I'm mad about something that they did with one of the characters in the first episode, and so I'm just like kind of mad about it, but I'll probably keep watching it, but I'm kind of mad about it. So
I was going to, do you need to have watched Captain Marvel in order to watch Secret Invasion?
I'd say yes.
Okay, yes. That's what I thought, because I still haven't watched Captain Marvel yet. And I've been meaning to, and I just never got around to it. I was interested in that series with Secret Invasion, just because I love Emilia Clarke. I love her so much. I love it. She will do, anything she does, I would probably watch. And I miss her since Game of Thrones.
It's got a phenomenal cast. Secret Invasion, like a great, like a really top-notch cast, and so that was very exciting to me.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of things about it that also kind of piss me off. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So
so I've been preoccupied with K-dramas, and so the one that I would say I was like obsessed with in June is a Netflix limited series called Alchemy of Souls. I don't know if any of you seen that one. So it is about, and Beth from Aspasia Rising, she recommended it to me. And I had started it actually to and from my flight from Europe. So on the plane rides, I had started it, and I finally got around to like continuing with it this past month, and I just binge watched the entire 2 seasons, and I was just obsessed. And so basically the premise is it takes place, so it's a Korean drama, so it takes place kind of Joseon Dynasty era, so kind of old school, and it's a fantasy. It's like a fantasy story, and essentially there's this powerful sorceress / assassin who has been on the hunt and killing certain mages for reasons. And so she's in a brawl with some of them, and she gets wounded. And in order to save herself from being captured and killed, she decides to try to perform this kind of like magical spell called the Alchemy of Souls, where she essentially puts her soul into the body of another being. Turns out didn't go as she had planned, and she ends up in the body of a young blind woman. So then you have this rich young nobleman and Jang-wook, and he recognizes her for who she is right away. He recognizes that this is Naksu, the infamous assassin, and in exchange for keeping her identity a secret and protecting her under the guise of her being his personal maid, servant, he wants her to teach him how to become a powerful mage, because he has the potential to be one, but he has been physically he has a physical limitation placed on him magically from becoming this powerful mage for reasons which aren't his fault. But so it's all about that dynamic. And of course there's a larger plot, arc is more exciting. And so it's got the magic, and of course it's a K-drama, so it's got the romance, and some of the comedy, and it's so good. But it is long. Like, these episodes are like an hour and 20. And I guess what they had done was they would just release like an episode on Saturday and then an episode on Sunday. And instead of like releasing them in one batch, which is a smart move because they're long. And I basically got no sleep for a good, I don't know how many weeks that I was binging both seasons, but it's totally worth it. But if you like Korean dramas and you like fantasy, then I would recommend.
Well, I had a terrible TV movie month. I didn't actually watch that much. And I watched, I might go off on a rant now. I apologize in advance. But so I watched Scream 6. I paid for it to watch it on Amazon Prime. And by the time the film was finished, I was so fucking mad.
Oh no.
So mad.
Was that bad?
For context, the original Scream trilogy is my favorite, not just my favorite horror trilogy, but probably my favorite trilogy of movies, bar none, of all time. Ooh. I'm a huge fan of the slasher genre, and they are so good. Then Scream 4 was bad. Like, Scream 4, we can just pretend doesn't exist. Scream 5, when they did like the picking the series back up, was actually really good.
Okay.
Scream 6 was fucking awful. It was awful. The foreshadowing was so heavy-handed.
Oh, really?
One character made one throwaway line in a conversation, and I went, okay, so it's you and this person. And that was like 20 minutes into the film.
Oh, no.
It was so badly handled. There were moments in the film where stuff was happening, and it was like, what the fuck? Like, genuinely, I'm willing to suspend my disbelief in a horror film and accept that things in horror films are going to happen that would never happen in real life. But there's a limit as to how far I'm willing to accept. Right. And there's this whole thing that happens in a convenience store that goes on for a really long amount of time in the middle of a busy street in America and you just think, I don't believe it for 1 second. And then the end, the acting was appalling.
No.
And the motive, even for a Scream movie, was so ridiculous. I was like, I don't understand what's happening.
So is the cast the same from like the original? Because I know Scream 5 picked up with the original, a lot of the original cast, was it?
No, well, no. So it's really difficult to tell you
Without
which of the original cast are in Scream 6 without spoiling aspects of Scream 5 if you haven't already seen it.
Okay.
But basically, it's like they have a word for it, and I can't remember what they're calling it. They're calling it like a re-something. So the original film, so Scream and the new Scream, which they're just calling Scream, but is actually Scream 5.
Right.
Are very similar stories, but with different actors. Like they're young actors. So I get that I'm no longer there.
Okay.
And then Scream 6 is very similar in that it starts off and it takes place like there's things that happen on a campus at a university and stuff. But the Scream 5 was really good. It was really well done. And then Scream 6 was just really bad.
I'm sorry.
I was so mad by the end of the film. I was like, I hate you.
I'm so sorry.
It was really bad. And then they had one guy, and oh my God, I know him, but I can't remember his name. I don't remember his name. But his acting was so hammy, and he's not a hammy actor. In other stuff that I've seen him in, he's not a hammy actor. So you just got the impression that he just thought it was all a big joke because it's just a horror movie, right?
And the director was shit. It's probably
or they had a really bad director. But it was just the end with the reveal, which I'm getting carried away. I know I'm getting carried away, but Scream, one of the things that Scream revitalized the slasher genre, because first of all, it was really self-referential, which had never been done before, and the ending and the reveal and everything was so clever.
It was. I remember being so
I remember too, yeah.
The Scream 6 is just not clever. It's not, the reveal is just not well done at all. So yeah,
I'm sorry.
Same.
I think I'm done now. I'm done. I can see that they want to make more.
Oh, really?
But I think I'm done, and I'm just going to stick with my original trilogy, which I have on DVD, and I have a habit of watching back to back on a weekend sometimes when I'm in the mood, and just stick to that. And
probably a good idea.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Should we talk about other hobbies stuff that we've been doing in June? If anybody has anything to share?
Sure. All I wanted to say is that I did a lot of crocheting in June.
Nice.
And I made birthday presents for my sister, and I just think they're cool because they just turned out really good. So I'm making her this set of storage baskets.
Oh.
So here's one of them.
Oh, that's really nice.
Crocheted, and I think it turned out really good. And then I'm making a couple of smaller ones. So here's what the smaller one
Oh,
is.
cute.
So anyway,
did those take a long time for you to make?
Nope, a couple hours.
That's it? A couple hours?
It's really big yarn.
Is it done in the round, or is it done and then you sew it together?
It's in the round, yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Great colors too. Very nice.
So this is two of them. I'm working on a third one too. And then I also did another crochet project, but it's for Julie's birthday, so I can't show it because her birthday present is just wildly late. But
okay. So to add to my doll collection, I received this beauty for my birthday. I have renamed her. She came with a name, but I renamed her Darkling. And I just love everything about her. Just that very kind of goth, dark look to her, and the silver hair. And yes, she's another pull-up, which is a Korean brand adult doll. This is my latest edition, and I love her so much. So much. Oh, and she's got, I have to show you. When you close her eyes, her eyelids have like these crucifix markings on them.
Oh, dude. That's cool.
I know, right?
And creepy.
Oh, I love it so much. Love it. So
Cool.
yeah. So she's great. I mean, and her shoes, like if in my fantasy self would love to wear these like studded big ass goth boots. And it was such a surprise. I did not expect to get her, but it was a lovely surprise from a lovely friend. And then I had asked Matt, like, you know, he always asks for a wish list of things to get me because he says I'm super hard to shop for, which I am. So, and I had put some tools for customizing dolls, like face ups, and you know, so doing face ups for Blythe dolls and pull of dolls. So we'll see. I mean, this way I can try to fashion dolls that are, you know, maybe from like a fandom or something. So I have in mind like Coraline. I want to make like a Coraline doll. So I've done some light customs on my Blythes, you know, like switching out the eye chips and rejiggering the mechanism of the, you know, the eyes, and, you know, switching out wigs and things like that. I've done that. So I've gotten tools now. Matt bought me some face plates to like practice on, and he bought me, you know, some carving tools to, yeah, just play around with and see if I can make something that doesn't actually look like a possessed doll. And that,
awesome.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes, but I figure why not, you know, why not just play around and give it a try. So that's really it for me.
Cool. Yeah, I genuinely don't have anything. I mean, I've been reading and gaming most of the month, and that's been my month. So. Cool. So I think that is us done. So depending on when you are watching this, we will be live on my channel on Saturday, the 8th of July. So we hope that you will join us there for another 3 Girls, 1 Deck. Thank you very much for sticking with us while we do this video. We love these videos. We like I said at the beginning, it gives us an excuse to actually sit down and film them, which we wouldn't do if we were doing them on our own. And it's so much more fun to talk about your month with somebody else. Yeah. So we will definitely carry on doing this as long as people carry on watching them, and probably even when people stop watching them.
Exactly. Let's be real.
Because we'll just do them for ourselves. Thank you very much, and we will see you all very shortly for another one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.